Yo, what's going on? This is Nero, and I kind of just wanted to come on here, basically touch base and like tell you a little bit about myself and like who I am, my background. I get a lot of, yo, who are you? Like, what you do? This, that, and it's kind of like a little bit up in the air because I make music. Some people see me make music. Some people do see me work on businesses. Some people see me outside. So it's a little bit like, who are you? And I feel like for all people, like, you can agree to the fact that who are you is such a broad question. Everybody got, their story. Everybody got their own thing. So it's a tough question to answer. I guess if I could go back, I would start from the beginning. And while I do this, I'm actually going to also work on getting leads for my business. I'm try every day to make the best of my time. So while I do this, bear with me. I am also on my computer and trying to work on my business. So, okay. Excuse me. So, where it started. Um, if I had to bring it to a certain point, whenever somebody asks me, "Hey, where did you start?" or "How did you start?" Doing music, doing whatever it is you do, I always go back to high school. I used to go to the Catholic school in Queens, New York, and I think to myself, like, on those bus rides to school, I would take the MTA, the public bus. They had, the big ass buses, the white buses, and there'd be tons of people on the bus. There'd be older people, there'd be younger people, hooligans, but also mature people on that bus. In New York, there's a story every single day, I swear to God. But when I think back, I remember that I started off by listening to 21 Savage, Metro Boomin, Savage Mode 2. And this is not a joke. Like, that literally was my playlist every single day. And I thank God for that because I really like touch base with like what it was like in the Atlanta scene just from that album. Touch base with what reality is on the other side. Even though I'm not saying I was super wealthy as a kid, I'm not saying all this. Of course, I had my trials and tribulations. My family is rich. So even though I'm not, entirely wealthy growing up, there was even worse. New York has its own hoods, but all over the country, it's bad, in certain situations, certain places. So I think about this, and when I was listening to that album, it really touched me because as I grew up, I would see certain places like that. The trap, everything. I would see, Southside Jamaica, Jamaica, basically Jamaica Ave, you know, and they're not that bad, but it can get a little sketchy. So you got to be careful. So after that, I kind of started to really start messing with that trap, that hip hop sound. And there was this one day I found my friend. Well, at the time we weren't friends yet, but there was this guy outside of school after school ended. And around him was a huddle of people, and I was like, what's going on? I'm the type of person, I would say I'm mainly introvert, but I'm very curious and I'm up for that spontaneous shit sometimes. So I'm like, okay, what's going on out here? Why are all these people huddled around this one kid? I come to find out that he's freestyling off the top of his head, and this kid, he's going off. Like, I know you've seen those freestyle videos online, people, going crazy. But this kid, I'm telling you, he was skilled. Like, unlike I've ever seen before. It was great. So, I'm like, yo, he's dope. And A couple days later, I found out we have class together, and I stumble into him and his cousin, and we just became friends just like that. It was just like, yo, we in the same class, and we're like, yo, what if we just become like best friends? And that literally is what happened. Before that was in freshman year, and after that 4 years, all we did talk about was music. Yo, we became best friends. That's the power of manifestation. That one day we was like, yo, what if we just become best friends like that? And just that spark. And not a lot of people get those interactions. I'd say, one every decade you get an interaction like that where you just become best friends off rip. You can have that chemistry with those kinds of people. So as I became, closer to him, and he would freestyle more like every single day. So that became part of my routine, just being with them, being around that environment. They freestyle. I'll be on the lunch table, banging drums, beatboxing. And sooner or later, I had a program on my, we had iPads in school. So there was a program called GarageBand. And on that program, I was like, I'm going to try giving this a shot. I'm going to try giving GarageBand a shot, see what I could come up with. And I'm not going to lie, my first beat was so bad. I don't even remember how bad it was. Like, it was so garbage. And I remember showing it to him, and he was like, yo, continue, keep doing it, or he was like, yo, that's cool, and I was like, I'm gonna make sure this shit sounds good, and then we gonna see. And every single day I'd go home after, workouts. I'd go home after, trainings, after school, and I'd lock in just on my computer. I had a really old MacBook Air. Actually, it's right here. This thing. I don't use it anymore, sometimes for live streams, but I would go to that, and every single day I would lock in. I'm telling you, and it was mediocre the first year. But I knew to myself, I'm like, yo, this is what I want to do. So that whole time in high school, it was just me and him. We was just crafting our skill. And our songs, they were all right. At the time, we were really psyched about each song that we made, and people really rock with our old songs, back in the day. And now I look at our progress, I'm making beats for, artists all around the world, and he's making fire in the studio every single time. This man got playlist on playlist. He's doing his thing. His sound is he perfected his sound. And I feel like I'll continuously practice on mine. So that's how I started off rip in high school. And then after high school, I started doing the college thing. But then COVID hit, of course. At the time, I was kind of juggling multiple things in college. I was juggling, girls. I was juggling, schoolwork. I was juggling, work. Because I used to work as a host in a diner. I was juggling, making beats. So I was juggling all these things, family, everything. But when COVID hit, it kind of really opened up a lot of my time, because school, nobody could go to school. It was COVID, it was locked down. Work, they had to let people go because COVID, restaurants locked down in New York. So I had all this time, and I was just locked in with my family. There was no girls because it was lockdown. So then I really kind of went into this monk mode where I'm like, okay, it's time for me to go after what I want in my life. And then that's when I found this school called SAE here in Atlanta. And at the time, I was talking with my lifelong friend. His name is Ethan Minicello, and their family really supported me. So we made the decision to move out here to Atlanta. And it's kind of crazy, the manifestation of, back in high school, listening to an Atlanta rapper, 21 Savage, and Metro Boomin, and now being here in Atlanta and down in the South. This is where I am right now. And I'm not worried to give away that information. This is where I am. So I find it interesting because one of my great idols was Metro Boomin as a producer. Every producer can admit that, or most at least. And I realized, everything I did, leads me up to today. When I came down here to Atlanta about 2 years ago, I really didn't have anything. I had, I'd say, an email list, and I became a student at the school. And so I started working, I'm talking about at the school, doing my work early, just getting it done, get it out the way. That way I have more time to work on my craft and more time to work on my business. At the time, I found, different mentors online who would teach me all about, how to make sales online, how to do this, how to do that online. That way it could bring in revenue, generate income. So I think it's super important to really just isolate everything. When I came out here to Atlanta, you can see, I like being alone. I can be in this area, I can be this, and I could just fill this room up. I think it's super important that you got to go into that zone just by yourself and be that. Do what you got to do. If you want to do something in your life, you got to take the time away from everybody else by yourself and do it. Because if I was still with my family back in New York, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I wouldn't have a business. I wouldn't be pursuing it every single day. So my point is, to those who are watching, if you make music, if you want to learn how to make money from music, if you want to do this, if you want to do that, especially to the guys out there, I know girls, who have their dreams as well, in music and whatever, and that's great. I think that's awesome. But a lot of guys, I believe, would, recognize what it's like to do what you want to do, what you really want to do, pursue that. So I think it's super important to take that time away from everybody else and do it. Because me being away from my family, being away from my friends, really starting fresh in a new city allowed me that space to really open up, to really become something else, become something different. And that kind of changes you, because when you're in one city or you're in one, people see you and they put you into that mold. And then when you're in that mold, you can't really, break free. But as soon as you go to another situation, there is no mold anymore. A new city, a new country, a new state, there is no mold anymore. So you start okay, I can do this, I can do that. And then you start opening up and you're like, oh shit, the possibilities are endless. You could do this, you could do that, you could do this, So I found myself with a lot of opportunities. And because I came here by myself, I met a lot of dope people. And that's, you find dope people in all cities, New York, Los Angeles, Philly, everywhere, right? But when I came out here to Atlanta, it just felt like that, because Atlanta is so booming, and it's so, such a music, center of life, a music center, especially in the trap scene. So coming out here made me realize, like, yeah, there's a lot of people out here doing it. And as soon as I realized that, you know, I made it my goal to surround these people around me, because they say, you know, if you surround yourself with, you know, 5 right people, whether it be billionaires or whether it be, you know, high-end people, you become the 6th person. So that's what I did for myself, because I know if I hang around with the same people that do nothing, I'm going to be the 6th person who does nothing. But if I hang around, you know, 5 people who perform, who do shows, who do businesses online, who, you know, do this, who do that, you know, I'm going to be the 6th person. So I think that's also very important. And that's some lessons that I learned in my life, even though I'm only, you know, in my 20s. So I find it very interesting. And honestly, it's so vital. It's so vital, because if I were to stay in one place and in one the whole time, I don't think I would have grown that much. If I'm just being honest, it takes a lot to break out of a mold that people put you in, or you put yourself in, because a lot of times it's a mental thing. We put ourselves in that mold. You know, we put ourselves in that because we get comfortable. And I'm not gonna lie, you know, there's a lot of people online who are like, yo, hustle, grind, become a CEO. That's like the mentality that they're trying to push into you. I'm not saying do that, and I'm not saying do not do that. All I'm saying, do what makes you happy. If you like, you know, working every single day, you know, at a mailroom because you love the people that you meet, or you love the fact that you get to, you know, have this kind of, I guess, status or authority, or maybe you just like filing mail. Like, that's so cool. If you like making music, that's great. And there's going to be a lot of people that tell you, oh, you think you really can do that? They're doubting you because they doubt themselves. They don't think that they could do that. And I'm just telling you, if that makes you happy making music, you can completely do it for a living. You can do it. But you also have to realize that you need to make a living off this. It's not just a dream. And a lot of people, I get on calls with a lot of people, they say, you know, I really want to do this. I really want to make money off my music. I really want, you know, this music reach. I really want people to see my music. But they're not doing anything to make that happen. So how do you expect that to happen? You know, ideas are nothing unless action is behind it. So for those people, you know, you guys can, you know, hit me up. And this is not, you know, self-promo. If you really want help, you can hit me up. But before you do that, check yourself first. Be real with yourself. Are you doing everything that you could to make this happen? How important is it for you? Is this something that you can see yourself doing in 5 years? And you don't have to answer that many questions. It's just be real with yourself. Do you really want this? And for those who do really want this, I would recommend go online, look around your community, find those who are already doing it, and just follow their footsteps. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just follow their footsteps. And eventually, contact them. Surround yourself with them. And before you know it, you will be one of them. I really like doing this because, you know, oftentimes I talk with my pops on a daily basis, and because he's an entrepreneur, a contractor himself, I really just get to feed off his energy. And I realize that like I love like trading ideas, trading wisdom, because when I'm around certain people, especially like high earners or people who really do what they say they do, I love to just listen. You know, people who can back their word. You know, I'm fascinated by those kinds of people. I'm trying to be like those kinds of people. So, those people, I ask questions. I listen. Because you will always find a gem no matter who you talk to. It doesn't even have to be people like that. No matter who you talk to, you will find out something very interesting. You keep talking to them, you will find out something very interesting. So I recommend you go ahead, do that. You go ahead, create your own origin story like I did earlier in this video. It doesn't have to be exactly like mine, because let's be honest, not everyone's origin story is going to be the same. Actually, they never will be the same. So with that being said, create your own origin story. Find the people you can surround yourself with who are on that same type of timing, and then you will find yourself in a whole nother mentality, a whole nother place. And trust me, it will be worth it. Alright, y'all. Take care. Peace.